The words hung in the air like shattered glass, each syllable cutting deeper than the last. Everyone except you. Diane Morrison stood frozen in her own kitchen, the scent of vanilla cake she'd baked that morning now bitter in her nostrils. Around her, colorful balloons swayed gently from the ceiling fan, blue, purple, red, yellow, a mockery of celebration. Her hands, still dusted with flour from frosting the cake, trembled as she stared at her son Marcus, who wouldn't even look at her. His eyes remained fixed on his phone, his jaw set in that stubborn way that reminded her so painfully of his father. "Marcus!" Her voice cracked. She cleared her throat, forcing strength she didn't feel. "Baby, this is your 18th birthday. I've been planning this for weeks. I thought we could finally—" "You thought wrong." His words were flat, emotionless. Still, he didn't look up. The afternoon sunlight streaming through the kitchen window seemed almost cruel in its cheerfulness, illuminating the spread she'd prepared. His favorite buffalo wings, the potato salad he'd loved since childhood, those expensive cupcakes from the bakery across town. Paper plates in his favorite colors sat stacked and waiting for guests who would never include her. Diane felt her knees weaken. She gripped the granite countertop, the cool stone anchoring her to reality. 57 years old, and she'd never felt more like a stranger in her own home. The pearl necklace around her neck, a gift from Marcus 3 Christmases ago, suddenly felt too tight, choking her with memories of better times. Why? The question escaped as barely a whisper. For the first time in their conversation, Marcus lifted his eyes. What she saw there made her breath catch. Not anger, not teenage rebellion. Something far worse, indifference. Cold, calculated indifference. "You really don't know?" He let out a hollow laugh that echoed through the kitchen. "That's the saddest part, Mom. You genuinely don't know." Outside, a car horn honked twice. Marcus grabbed his denim jacket from the back of the chair, moving toward the door with practiced efficiency, as if he'd rehearsed this exit 100 times in his mind. His movements were quick, purposeful, desperate to escape. "Marcus, please." Diane stepped forward, reaching out, but he moved away as if her touch would burn him. "Lock the door when you leave for work," he said, hand on the doorknob. "I know you've got the night shift." "I called in sick today," she managed to say, her voice small. "I wanted to be here for your birthday. I wanted—" "Well, uncall it." His tone was ice. "There's nothing for you here." And then he was gone. The door didn't slam. That would have required emotion. Instead, it closed with a soft final click that somehow hurt worse than any slammed door ever could. Diane stood alone in the kitchen she'd spent 2 days preparing, surrounded by decorations meant for joy. The balloon closest to her had a smudged handprint, hers from when she'd been hanging them that morning, humming along to the radio, imagining her son's surprise and gratitude. How foolish she'd been. How completely, utterly foolish. She sank into the chair Marcus had just vacated, its seat still warm from his presence. On the table, his birthday card lay unopened, the envelope pristine, except for a small water stain where her tears had fallen while she was addressing it. She'd spent 30 minutes in the Hallmark aisle yesterday, reading dozens of cards before finding the perfect one. Inside, she'd written in her careful cursive, "Marcus, you're becoming the man I always knew you'd be. I'm so proud of you. Love always, Mom." The card now felt like a lie, or worse, a wish that would never come true. Her phone buzzed against the counter, the vibration startlingly loud in the silent kitchen. A text from her supervisor at Mercy General Hospital. "Diane, can you come in early? We're short-staffed. I know it's your day off, but we really need you." She stared at the message, watching the words blur as tears finally spilled down her cheeks. The hospital, her refuge, and her prison. the place where she saved lives while losing her own son, one shift at a time. Diane looked around the kitchen one more time, at the cake with 18 candles she'd never light, at the presents wrapped in blue paper stacked carefully by the pantry, at the banner reading, "Happy 18th birthday, Marcus," that now seemed to mock every sacrifice she'd ever made. Each decoration was a reminder of her failure, each balloon a symbol of deflated dreams. Her fingers moved across the phone screen automatically. "I'll be there in 30 minutes. As she stood to change into her scrubs, something on the refrigerator caught her eye. Beneath a magnet from their trip to Niagara Falls 5 years ago, back when Marcus still smiled in photos with her, back when he'd hold her hand without shame, was a drawing. Faded now, the edges curled with age and held down by yellowing tape. Marcus had made it in 3rd grade, 2 stick figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun, labeled in blue crayon with backward letters. "Me and Mom, best friends forever." The misspelling of friends had been adorable then. Now it felt prophetic, as if even at 8 years old, some part of him had known this friendship wouldn't last. Diane touched the drawing with one finger, tracing the careful loops of his childhood handwriting. When had she lost him? Was it gradual, like sand slipping through fingers? Or had there been a specific moment, a single breaking point she'd been too blind or too tired to see? She tried to remember the last time they'd had a real conversation, not just logistics about dinner or reminders about homework, but an actual connection. The last time he'd laughed at one of her jokes. The last time he'd hugged her without her having to ask first. The memories felt distant, like trying to recall a dream upon waking. As she walked upstairs to change, her reflection in the hallway mirror stopped her cold. The woman staring back looked exhausted in a way that went beyond physical tiredness. The gray in her natural curls was more prominent than she remembered, the lines around her eyes deeper, carved by years of double shifts and worry. Her headband, usually so carefully positioned, sat slightly askew. Even her posture spoke of defeat. When had she become this person? This ghost in her own life? In her bedroom, Diane pulled on her navy blue scrubs mechanically, her movements automatic from years of routine. On her nightstand sat a framed photograph. Marcus at his middle school graduation 3 years ago, grinning wide in his cap and gown, her arm around his shoulders. She was smiling too, genuine and unguarded, her face alight with pride. They looked happy. They looked like they belonged together. They looked like people who would never end up here, in this painful moment of rejection and confusion. She picked up the frame, studying it as if it held answers hidden in the pixels. "Where did I go wrong?" she whispered to the photograph, her thumb brushing across Marcus's frozen smile. "Tell me, baby. Please tell me." The boy in the picture didn't answer. He just kept smiling that captured smile, forever frozen in a moment before everything fell apart. The fluorescent lights of Mercy General's emergency department hummed their familiar tune, a sound that had become the soundtrack to Diane's life over the past 8 years. She moved through the corridors with practiced efficiency, her sneakers squeaking against the polished linoleum. But tonight the routine couldn't quiet the storm in her mind. "Diane, thank God you're here," called out Dr. Sarah Chen, one of the few colleagues who'd become something resembling a friend. Sarah was in her early 40s, energetic despite the grueling hours, with kind eyes that rarely missed anything. "We've got a busy night ahead. There's a family in room 3, teenage boy with a sprained ankle from basketball. Nothing serious, but they're pretty anxious." Diane nodded, washing her hands at the sink. The cold water shocked her back to the present, back to the place where she knew exactly what to do. This was what she was good at, caring for others, being present in their worst moments. If only she could do the same for her own son. She grabbed the chart and headed toward room 3, taking a deep breath before pulling back the curtain. Inside, a teenage boy sat on the examination table, his leg elevated while his mother fussed over him with worried hands. The boy looked about 16, with the same lanky build Marcus had at that age. "Hi, I'm Diane. I'll be your nurse tonight," she said with her professional smile, the one she'd perfected over thousands of shifts. "Let's take a look at that ankle." The mother stepped back, wringing her hands. "Is he going to be okay? He has a tournament next week. Basketball is his life. I don't know what he'd do if—" "Mom, relax," the boy interrupted, but his tone was gentle, almost affectionate. "I'm fine. It's just a sprain." "I can't help it," the mother said, reaching out to smooth his hair. He didn't pull away. "You're my baby. I worry." "I know, Mom, I know." Diane felt something crack inside her chest as she watched this simple exchange, this casual intimacy that used to be hers. The way the boy rolled his eyes but smiled, the way the mother's hand lingered on his shoulder, the way they existed in the same space without walls between them. She focused on examining the ankle, her hands steady even as her heart trembled. "It's a grade 1 sprain," she confirmed after a thorough check. "You'll need to rest it, ice it, keep it elevated. You should be back on the court in 2 to 3 weeks if you follow the protocol." The boy's face lit up. "See, Mom? I told you." 2 to 3 weeks means you'll miss the tournament," his mother said, her voice thick with disappointment, not for herself, but for him. "It's okay," the boy said, squeezing her hand. "There'll be other tournaments. Thanks for bringing me in. I know you had that work thing tonight." "Work can wait," his mother said simply. "You come first, always." Diane excused herself quickly, mumbling something about getting the discharge papers. In the hallway, she leaned against the cool wall, pressing her palm against her chest, as if she could physically hold her heart together. When had Marcus last spoken to her with that casual warmth? When had she last touched his hair without him flinching away? "You okay?" Sarah appeared beside her, concern written across her face. "I'm fine," Diane said automatically, straightening up. It was the same lie she'd been telling for years. "Diane." Sarah's voice was soft but firm. "I've known you for 6 years. You're not fine. What's going on?" For a moment, Diane considered maintaining the facade. But the weight of the day, of Marcus's rejection, of that mother and son in room 3, it was too much. The words spilled out before she could stop them. "Marcus didn't want me at his birthday party." Sarah's eyes widened. "What?" "Today's his 18th birthday. I took the day off, spent 2 days preparing everything, and when I asked who he'd invited, he said—" Diane's voice broke. "Everyone except me." Sarah pulled her into the break room, away from the bustling hallway. Inside, the room was blessedly empty. "Sit down," she ordered gently, guiding Diane to one of the worn chairs. "Tell me everything." And Diane did. The words poured out, years of growing distance, of watching her son become a stranger, of double shifts and missed moments, of coming home too tired to ask the right questions, of assuming there would always be time later, of the refrigerator drawing and the unopened birthday card and the balloon-filled kitchen that now sat empty. "How long has it been like this?" Sarah asked when Diane finally fell silent. "I don't know," Diane admitted, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "That's the worst part. I can't pinpoint when it started. It was so gradual. One day he was my little boy who needed me for everything, and the next—" She gestured helplessly. "He can't stand to be in the same room with me." Sarah was quiet for a moment, her expression thoughtful. "Can I tell you something? Something I've never told anyone here?" Diane nodded, grateful for any distraction from her own pain. "When my daughter Emily was 15, she told me she hated me," Sarah said softly. "Screamed it, actually. Said I was ruining her life, that I didn't understand her, that she wished she had a different mother." "I didn't know you had a daughter," Diane said, surprised. "She lives with her dad in Seattle now. She's 23, finishing grad school. Sarah smiled, but it was tinged with old sadness. When she said those things, I thought my world was ending. I was working here, same as you, trying to provide for her, give her a good life. But I missed things. School plays, parent-teacher conferences, the day she got her first period because I was stuck in a 12-hour shift. Diane felt tears burning behind her eyes again. The parallels were too close, too painful. I was so angry at her, Sarah continued. How dare she not appreciate everything I was sacrificing? But you know what I realized years too late? She didn't need my sacrifices. She needed me, present, imperfect, just there. How did you fix it? Diane asked desperately. How did you get her back? Sarah's expression turned sad. I didn't. Not the way I wanted to. By the time I figured it out, she was already pulling away. She chose to live with her dad for college, and now we talk once a month, maybe. Polite conversations about weather and work. We're cordial strangers. The words hit Diane like ice water. So you're saying there's no hope? No, Sarah said firmly, gripping Diane's hand. I'm saying don't wait as long as I did. Don't assume time will fix it. Don't tell yourself you'll deal with it after the next shift, the next crisis, the next emergency. Because life is the emergency, Diane. Your son is the emergency. Not the patients in these rooms. They have other doctors, other nurses. But Marcus only has one mother. Diane stared at her friend, the truth of those words settling into her bones. How many times had she told herself she'd talk to Marcus tomorrow? How many times had she chosen an extra shift over an evening at home? How many moments had slipped away while she was saving someone else's child? I don't even know where to start, she whispered. Start with the truth, Sarah said. Start with showing up even when it's uncomfortable. Start with listening instead of defending. And Diane, start tonight. This shift can manage without you. I can't just leave. Yes, you can. Sarah stood, pulling Diane up with her. I'll talk to Dr. Patterson. Go home. Go to your son. Even if he doesn't want to see you, be there. Be present. That's where it starts. Diane's mind raced. The party was at Tyler's house. She'd heard Marcus mention it. She didn't even know where Tyler lived, didn't know Marcus's friends anymore. When had that happened? When had she stopped knowing the basic details of her son's life? But Sarah was right. She could figure it out. She had to figure it out. What if he turns me away? The fear in her voice was raw, childlike. Then you try again tomorrow, Sarah said simply. And the day after that. And the day after that. You keep showing up until he knows, beyond any doubt, that you're not going anywhere. That's what love is, Diane. It's not grand gestures. It's showing up consistently even when it's hard. Diane thought of the mother in room 3, canceling work to be with her son for a sprained ankle. Such a small thing, such an enormous thing. She thought of Marcus at 8 years old, drawing stick figures holding hands. Best friends forever. She thought of the closed bedroom door, the unopened birthday card, the cold indifference in her son's eyes. And she made a decision. Okay, she said, her voice stronger now. Okay, I'm going. Sarah smiled, squeezing her shoulder. Good. Now go. And Diane? Whatever happens tonight, don't give up. Promise me. I promise, Diane said, already moving toward the locker room to grab her things. As she changed out of her scrubs and back into her clothes from earlier, Diane caught sight of herself in the mirror. The same exhausted woman from this afternoon stared back, but something in her eyes had changed. There was a spark there now, determination mixed with terror, hope tangled with desperation. She pulled out her phone and opened her contacts. Marcus's best friend used to be a boy named Tyler Chen. Sarah's last name was Chen. Could it be? Sarah, she called out, rushing back into the hallway. Your nephew. Is his name Tyler? Sarah looked up from a chart, surprised. Yes, why? Is he having a party tonight? Understanding dawned on Sarah's face. He is. For his friend's 18th birthday. She pulled out her phone, quickly typing. I'm sending you the address right now. Go. Diane's phone buzzed with the message. The address was across town, at least a 30-minute drive. Marcus's party had started at 7. It was now 8:30. She'd missed an hour and a half already, but she wasn't going to miss another minute. The house was alive with music and laughter when Diane pulled up to the curb. Through the large front windows, she could see silhouettes moving, teenagers dancing, the warm glow of string lights creating an atmosphere of celebration. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she sat in her car, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles had turned white. This was Marcus's world, a world she hadn't been part of in so long. She didn't know these kids, didn't know their names, their stories, what made them laugh or what dreams they chased. When had her son's life become such a mystery to her? The digital clock on her dashboard read 9:03 p.m. She'd been sitting here for 8 minutes, paralyzed by fear. What if he told her to leave in front of everyone? What if he made a scene? What if showing up uninvited only pushed him further away? But then she remembered Sarah's words. Your son is the emergency. Diane took a deep breath, checked her reflection in the rear-view mirror one more time, and stepped out of the car. The late spring evening was warm, the air carrying the scent of jasmine from someone's garden and the faint smell of grilled food from the backyard. Her legs felt unsteady as she walked up the driveway, past cars she didn't recognize, toward a front door that might as well have been a fortress. She raised her hand to knock, then hesitated. Through the window beside the door, she could see Marcus. Her breath caught. He was smiling, genuinely smiling, in a way she hadn't seen in months. He stood in the center of a group of friends, animated, gesturing while telling some story that had everyone around him laughing. He looked happy. He looked free. He looked like the boy she used to know. Before she could second-guess herself again, Diane knocked. 3 firm knocks that seemed to echo louder than the music inside. The door opened to reveal a teenage girl with purple streaks in her hair and a friendly smile. Hi, are you someone's mom? Then her eyes widened slightly. Oh, wait, are you Marcus's mom? I've seen pictures at his place. I am, Diane said, her voice surprisingly steady. Is it okay if I come in? The girl's smile faltered slightly, confusion crossing her face. Sure, I guess. I'm Jasmine. Come on in. The moment Diane stepped inside, she felt every bit the intruder. The music seemed too loud, the lights too bright, the laughter too carefree. Conversations continued around her, but she was acutely aware of being an outsider in this space that belonged to her son and his friends. Tyler Chen appeared from the kitchen, carrying a tray of drinks. He was a tall kid with an easy smile, until he saw Diane. His expression shifted to surprise, then something that looked like concern. He set down the tray and approached her. Mrs. Morrison. He glanced toward where Marcus stood, still unaware of her presence. Does Marcus know you're coming? No, Diane admitted. But I need to talk to him. Please, Tyler, just give me 5 minutes. Tyler's face was conflicted. He was a good kid. She could see that. Loyal to Marcus, but also uncomfortable with the situation. Mrs. Morrison, I don't think. Marcus really didn't want... He stopped himself, clearly not wanting to hurt her feelings. I know he didn't want me here, Diane said quietly. But I'm his mother, Tyler. I need to understand why. Before Tyler could respond, the music suddenly cut out. In the abrupt silence, someone said loudly, Dude, Marcus, isn't that your mom? The room went quiet. Everyone turned, and then Diane's eyes met her son's across the crowded living room. Marcus's face went through a rapid succession of expressions: surprise, disbelief, embarrassment, and finally, anger. Pure, undiluted anger that made Diane's stomach drop. "What are you doing here?" His voice cut through the silence like a blade. Diane forced herself to stay calm, to not cry, to not apologize reflexively as she always did. "I need to talk to you, Marcus. Please." "I told you I didn't want you here." He said it loudly enough for everyone to hear. Some of the kids looked away, uncomfortable. Others watched with the fascinated horror of witnesses to a car crash. "I know," Diane said, taking a step toward him. "But I'm here anyway, because I love you, and because I need to understand what I did wrong." "What you did wrong?" Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You really want to do this here? In front of everyone?" "I want to do this anywhere you'll talk to me," Diane said, her voice trembling but determined. "Marcus, please, just talk to me 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking." For a moment she thought he might refuse. His jaw clenched, his hands balled into fists at his sides. Then he turned to his friends. "I'll be right back." To Diane he said curtly, "Fine, outside, now." He brushed past her, not waiting to see if she'd follow. Diane glanced at Tyler, who gave her an encouraging nod, then followed her son out the front door and down the driveway, away from the prying eyes and ears inside. They stopped under a streetlight, moss dancing in its glow. The music had resumed inside, muffled now, a distant soundtrack to what felt like the most important conversation of Diane's life. Marcus stood with his arms crossed, his back partially to her. She could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his foot tapped an agitated rhythm against the pavement. He'd inherited that nervous habit from her. "Talk," he said without looking at her. "You've got your 5 minutes." Diane had rehearsed speeches during the drive over, apologies and explanations and promises. But standing here now, facing her son's rigid back, all those carefully planned words evaporated. "I don't know what I did," she said honestly. "And that's the truth, Marcus. I've been trying to figure it out all day, all month, all year. When did you start hating me? What did I do that was so terrible you can't even stand to have me at your birthday party?" "You really don't know." He finally turned to face her, and in the harsh streetlight, she could see tears glistening in his eyes. "You don't remember?" "Remember what?" "The spelling bee," he said, and his voice cracked on the words. 3 years ago, the regional spelling bee. I made it to the finals, Mom. I was one of the top 5 spellers in the whole region." Diane felt something cold settle in her stomach. She remembered, vaguely. Marcus had been excited about some school competition. She'd promised to be there. She'd promised. "You didn't come," Marcus said, and now tears were streaming down his face. "You promised me you'd be there. You promised, and I kept looking for you in the audience. Every time someone new walked in, I thought it was you. But you never showed up." "Marcus, The memory was coming back now, sharp and painful. "There was an emergency at the hospital, a multi-car accident. We were overwhelmed and I couldn't leave. There's always an emergency." His voice rose, months or maybe years of hurt pouring out. "There's always someone at the hospital who needs you more than I do. There's always another shift, another patient, another reason why you can't be there. That's not fair, isn't it?" He wiped his face angrily. "That spelling bee was the first time, but it wasn't the last. My 8th grade promotion, you missed it. The night I won the science fair and got that scholarship, you were working. My first basketball game freshman year, working. The day I got accepted to college, you were so tired from a double shift you fell asleep while I was telling you." Each example hit Diane like a physical blow. She remembered some of them, vague recollections of Marcus mentioning things, of her promising she'd make it up to him later. But in her mind, she'd been doing it all for him. Every extra shift meant more money for his college fund, for his future, for giving him opportunities she never had. "I was trying to provide for you," she said weakly. "I didn't need you to provide for me," Marcus said, his voice breaking. "I needed you to be there, to see me, to care about what mattered to me instead of what mattered to everyone else." He took a shaky breath. "Do you know what the worst part was? At that spelling bee, Tyler's mom was there. She cheered so loud when Tyler got a word right. And I looked at her and thought, why doesn't my mom love me enough to show up?" "Marcus, no!" Diane reached for him, but he stepped back. "After the spelling bee, I decided something," he continued. "I decided I wasn't going to need you anymore. I wasn't going to keep hoping you'd show up, keep getting disappointed. It was easier to just stop caring, stop expecting anything from you." "Baby, I'm so sorry." "You want to know why I didn't invite you today?" Marcus's voice was steadier now, but somehow that made it worse. "Because this is my day, my 18th birthday, the day I officially become an adult, and I didn't want to spend it wondering if you'd show up or watching the door or making excuses for why you weren't there. I wanted one day where I could just be happy without that disappointment hanging over me." The truth of it crashed over Diane like a wave. She thought she was being a good mother by working hard, by sacrificing her time to give him financial security. But what he'd needed wasn't money or opportunities or a college fund. He'd needed her, present, attentive, there for the moments that mattered to him, not just the moments that fit her schedule. Diane stood under the streetlight, her son's words echoing in her mind like a sentence she couldn't escape. The warm night air felt suddenly cold against her skin, and she wrapped her arms around herself, not for warmth, but to hold the pieces of herself together. "You're right," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus looked at her, surprise flickering across his face. He'd clearly expected denial, excuses, justifications. But Diane was done with those. "You're right about all of it," she continued, tears streaming freely down her face now. "I told myself I was being a good mother by working those shifts, by building your college fund, by making sure you had everything you needed, but I was wrong, Marcus. I was so wrong." She took a step closer to him, and this time he didn't move away. "I convinced myself that providing for you was the same as being there for you. My mother worked 3 jobs when I was growing up. We barely scraped by. I saw her exhausted every day, and I promised myself that when I had a child, they'd never want for anything." She laughed bitterly. "But you know what? My mother was still there. At every school event, every birthday, every moment that mattered. She was exhausted, but she was present. And somehow I forgot that." Marcus's expression softened slightly, but the hurt was still there, raw and real. "Why didn't you just say no to some of those shifts?" "Because I was scared," Diane admitted. "Scared that if I wasn't the most reliable nurse, the most dependable employee, they'd replace me. Scared that if I took time off, we'd fall behind on bills. Scared that I wasn't enough. Not smart enough, not successful enough, not good enough. And the only way I could prove my worth was by being indispensable at work." She wiped her eyes. "I was so busy trying to be everything for everyone at that hospital that I forgot to be the one thing you needed. Your mom." "I needed you at that spelling bee," Marcus said, his voice small now, younger. "I was so nervous. I'd practiced for months. And when I got to the final round and spelled that last word correctly, all I wanted was to see you in the audience, proud of me." "What word was it?" Diane asked softly. "Perseverance," Marcus said, and despite everything, a small smile tugged at his lips. Kind of ironic, right? Diane felt her heart break and mend simultaneously. "What did you do after when you won?" "Tyler's mom took us out for ice cream," Marcus said. "She kept telling me how proud my mom would be when she heard. but I knew you'd just say, "That's great, honey," while checking your phone for messages from the hospital. He paused. And that's exactly what you did when I got home. The specificity of the memory, the detail he'd held onto for 3 years, showed Diane just how deep the wound went. This wasn't teenage drama or temporary anger. This was accumulated pain, years of small cuts that had become one gaping wound. "I can't go back and fix those moments," Diane said. "I can't be there at that spelling bee or any of the other times I should have been. And I know that saying I'm sorry isn't enough. Words are cheap, especially when I've broken so many promises." "So why are you here?" Marcus asked. "Why show up now?" "Because today, when you told me I wasn't invited, something inside me broke," Diane said honestly. "For the first time, I couldn't tell myself it was just a phase, or that you'd come around eventually, or that we had time to figure it out later. I realized I was losing you. Maybe I'd already lost you, and I couldn't—" Her voice broke. "I couldn't let another day go by without at least trying to understand." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his eyes searching her face. "I'm still angry at you," he said finally. "I'm not going to just forgive everything because you showed up one time." "I know," Diane said, "and I don't expect you to. But Marcus, I need you to know something. I'm done choosing the hospital over you. I'm done telling myself that one more shift doesn't matter. As of tonight, I'm putting in my notice to go part-time. No more double shifts. No more holidays at work. No more missing your life." "You can't just change everything overnight," Marcus said skeptically. "That's not realistic." "You're right," Diane agreed. "But I can start. Tonight. Right now. I'm here, aren't I? Even though you didn't want me here. Even though showing up might push you further away. I'm here because you matter more than my pride, more than my fear of rejection, more than anything else in my life." From inside the house, the sound of laughter and music continued, a reminder that Marcus's friends were waiting for him, that his party was happening without them. Diane glanced at the warm glow of the windows. "You should go back inside," she said. "This is your night. Your celebration. I didn't come here to ruin it." "Then why did you come?" Marcus asked again, softer this time. "To tell you that I see you now," Diane said. "To tell you that I'm sorry, and that I'm going to spend however long it takes proving to you that I mean it. To tell you that you don't have to love me right now or forgive me or even like me. But I'm your mother, and I'm not giving up on us. Not ever." Marcus looked down at his shoes, silent. Diane could see him processing, the wheels turning in his mind. She didn't rush him. For once in her life, she simply waited, giving him the space and time he needed. "There's a game next Friday," Marcus said finally, not looking up. "Basketball, semifinals. We probably won't win, but—" He trailed off. Diane's heart leaped. "What time?" 7 o'clock at the school gym. He finally looked up at her. "If you come, actually come. Don't promise and then not show up. Because if you do that again, Mom, I'm done. For real this time." "I'll be there," Diane said firmly. "Front row. I'll be the embarrassing mom cheering too loud." A ghost of a smile crossed Marcus's face. "You better be." They stood there for another moment, the space between them still filled with years of hurt, but maybe, just maybe, with a thin thread of hope now too. "I should get back," Marcus said, gesturing toward the house. "Tyler's probably wondering if we're okay." "Are we?" Diane asked. "Okay?" Marcus considered this. "No," he said honestly. "But maybe we could be, eventually." "Eventually is enough for me," Diane said. Marcus started walking back toward the house, then paused. He turned back to her. "Mom?" "Yes." "I'm glad you came tonight. Even though I'm still angry, I'm glad you came." Tears spilled down Diane's cheeks again, but these felt different, lighter somehow. "Me too, baby. Me too." And Mom? Stop calling me baby. I'm 18 now. Despite everything, Diane laughed. Old habits die hard, but I'll try. Marcus shook his head, but she could see him fighting a smile. Go home, get some rest. You look exhausted. I am exhausted, Diane admitted, but the good kind for once. She watched as Marcus walked back into the house, back to his friends and his party. Before he disappeared inside, he looked back at her one more time and gave her a small wave. Just a small gesture, but to Diane, it meant everything. Diane returned to her car and sat in the driver's seat, but she didn't start the engine right away. Instead, she pulled out her phone and opened her email. She typed a message to her supervisor at the hospital. Sarah, effective immediately. I'm requesting a move to part-time status. I need to be present for my son. Thank you for understanding. We'll discuss details tomorrow. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Next, she opened her calendar and blocked out Friday at 7 p.m. In bold letters, she typed, Marcus's basketball game, non-negotiable. As she drove home, the streets of their neighborhood looked different somehow. The same houses, the same trees, the same streetlights she'd driven past 1,000 times while heading to or from work. But tonight, she was really seeing them. She was present. When she pulled into her driveway, the house was dark except for the porch light she'd left on. Inside, the balloons from this afternoon had started to droop slightly. The cake still sat on the counter, the presents still unopened by the pantry. But instead of seeing failure, Diane saw possibility. She saw a kitchen where she could make breakfast for Marcus before school. She saw a table where they could sit and actually talk. She saw time, that precious commodity she'd been squandering for years, that she could now reclaim. She walked upstairs to Marcus's room and stood outside his closed door. The Keep Out sign still hung from the knob, but somehow it felt less like a barrier and more like a challenge she was finally ready to face. I'm going to fix this, she whispered to the closed door. I don't know how long it will take, and I don't know if we'll ever be what we were, but I'm going to try. Every single day, I'm going to try. In her own room, Diane changed into comfortable clothes and climbed into bed. For the first time in months, she didn't immediately fall asleep from exhaustion. Instead, she lay awake, thinking about the future. She thought about Friday's basketball game, about sitting in those bleachers and cheering for her son. She thought about the conversations they might have slowly, carefully, rebuilding trust one word at a time. She thought about the drawing on the refrigerator, 2 stick figures holding hands, and wondered if someday, in some way, they might find their way back to that simple joy. Her phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Proud of you. See you tomorrow to work out the details. P.S. Tyler said you showed up. That took courage. Diane smiled in the darkness and typed back. First step of a long journey. Thanks for pushing me to take it. Another buzz. This time, her heart stopped. A text from Marcus. Thanks for coming tonight. See you Friday. 3 simple sentences. But they were enough. They were a beginning. Diane held her phone to her chest, feeling the weight of the day finally settle. The hurt was still there, the guilt still heavy, the road ahead still uncertain. But for the first time in years, she felt something she'd almost forgotten. Hope. Outside her window, the night was quiet. Somewhere in the city, her son was still at his party, surrounded by friends, celebrating his 18th birthday. And in 1 week, she would sit in a gymnasium and watch him play basketball. She would be there, present, attentive, finally understanding what her son had needed all along. Not a perfect mother, just one who showed up. As Diane finally drifted off to sleep, the last thing she thought about was Marcus's face under the streetlight, hurt but also hopeful, angry but also willing to try. They had a long way to go. Years of missed moments couldn't be erased in one night, but they had taken the first step. And sometimes that's all you need to start finding your way home.